Okay, so welcome back. This is 7th grade class 2. We're going to be talking about boundaries in relationships that are friendships specifically. So before we get into all of that, we're going to do a quick recap. So this is just a review reminder of what we talked about in class 1. So a little bit of participation here. I have some candy. So can anyone tell me what a personal boundary is? Yeah, definitely. So it has to do with your personal limits, your personal space, what you're comfortable and not comfortable with. Yeah, exactly. Okay, how about, can someone give me the name of someone that you could go to if you have questions or concerns about boundaries? Yeah, so you could talk to your teacher, right? So we all know that, Mr. McMillan, he has this awesome box where you could leave anonymous notes for him. So you can talk to him, you can talk to your school counselor, your principal. I'll be here for another couple of days. So there's lots and lots of resources, people that you can talk to if you want support on boundaries or boundary violations that might have happened. Okay, let's see, one more recap question. Okay, we did that activity with the yes and no cards. Do we remember this? Yeah, okay. And we all agreed that people's boundaries are different, right? So the simple question of, are everyone's boundaries the same? The answer is no. So no, that's not going to be, you don't get candy for just that. Does anyone have a thought on why people's boundaries are different? Yeah, so we're all different people, right? We're different people, we have different experiences. Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. So that was our recap. You guys did a really, really great job of remembering everything. Okay, so first thing we are going to be doing today, as you can see from the PowerPoint, we are going to be doing a snowball fight, right? So thankfully it is December. There's a little bit of snow on the ground, but the good thing is that I brought snow with me. So on all of your desks, you should have these thin strips of paper. We do like to recycle at my office. So the back of the paper does have some words on it. Just ignore it. I want you to flip to the side that has no writing on it at all, so the blank side. So for this first part, you only need one piece of paper. Grab either a pen or a pencil, not a marker because it bleeds through. And what you're going to be doing is on that piece of paper, I want you to write down one thing, one quality of a good friend. So when you think about a good friend, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that your friend is supportive? Is your friend someone who's caring? Is your friend someone who's funny or someone who has the same interests as you? Something like that, right? So you're writing just one thing on the piece of paper. I'm going to give everyone a few seconds to do that now. So we're writing these down. And we're not judging spelling here, right? So no judgment on spelling. Okay. Once you have it written down, what I want you to do is I want you to take that piece of paper and put it up in the air. Once everyone's done, everyone's got it up in the air. Perfect. Okay, we are going to make our snowballs, right? So that means we are going to crumple these up. So we all have our snowballs in our hands, okay? Next, what we're gonna be doing, and don't do it yet, I'll tell you when, we're gonna be gently tossing our snowballs around the room to other people, okay? So you're not throwing it, you're not chucking it, you're not hitting anyone in the face. We are making sure that it's not going to one specific person, it's just in a general area, okay? And we're gonna do a kind of circular so that all of the snowballs are going kind of around the room so that we make sure that everyone gets one, okay? So we have our snowballs put up in the air. We are gently tossing, not throwing, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Gently tossing. Okay, so nice job throwing those around the room. And I have opened up a few of them, so I'm gonna be reading these out loud. Okay, so our first one says caring, right? So a lot of us, we like our friends to be caring. Totally makes sense. They're nice, right? We want our friends to be nice. And next one is loyal. Perfect, okay, so it sounds like we definitely understand how this works. So all of these that are gonna be unwrapped, we wanna leave these unwrapped, okay? Because that's gonna help us for round 2 so that we don't get everything confused. So leave them unwrapped on your desk. For round 2, you should have more pieces of paper on your table. If anyone doesn't have enough paper, let me know. You only need one more. So same thing as the first round. We take our piece of paper, except this time, instead of writing only one quality of a good friend, I want you to write 3. So 3 qualities of a good friend. And no, don't write like the same thing 3 times. So don't write nice, nice, nice. They could be super nice, but like, let me like nice and funny and, you know, I don't know, they're tall. Maybe you like tall people because you're really short and tall people help you, whatever it is, okay? So I want 3 qualities of a good friend, 3 different ones. Again, not judging spelling. Take your pencil or your pen, take a few moments and write that down now. When you're done, put it up in the air. Okay, so I see them all. And same thing as we did in round 1, we crumple them up. On the count of 3, we're going to be gently tossing these in the same direction we just did, leaving all the round 1 ones open so that we don't mix up round 1 and round 2 snowballs. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, and toss. Okay, so for round 2, remember we wrote 3 qualities of a good friend, and I have a bunch of these. And what we're actually going to be doing is starting to see, did a lot of you guys write the same things? Okay, so. Okay, so when we're thinking about a good friend, what are the things that different people thought of? Okay, so our first one, this person thought a good friend should be honest, kind, and funny. This next person thought a good friend should be caring, kind, and have similar interests as them. Okay? So, because more than one person said kind, I put a little tally mark there. This next person looks like they had similar things. So they think that a good friend should be funny, kind, and caring. So, see, it looks like a lot of us had the same things in mind, okay? So I'm going to circle these because, again, a lot of us in the classroom thought that a good friend should be kind, caring, and funny. I'm also going to add another word down at the bottom. You guys might be able to guess this word. Okay. So I added respectful. And the thing around that is we want to be around other people who respect us for who we are, who really care about the kind of people that we are, right? So when we think about a good friend, most of us anyways, and we had a couple different ones, most of us agreed that we like being around people who are kind, who are funny, right? You gotta have a sense of humor, who are caring, and who are respectful and respect us and who we are. And hopefully that means someone who also respects our boundaries. Okay, for this next part, I'm gonna need 4 volunteers. And if anyone doesn't volunteer, I'm gonna have Mr. McMillan pick for me. So do we have 4 volunteers? Okay, looks like I've got 2. Mr. McMillan, would you mind helping me out? Perfect, okay. So I have all 4 students up here. So the first 2 of you, what you guys are gonna be doing is you are gonna be a part of scenario 1. Next 2 of you, you're gonna be part of scenario 2. So here I have a couple skits, okay? So it's 2 different skits. And what I'm gonna have you do is I want you to take a couple minutes, read through all of these, pay attention to what student 1 is saying versus student 2 and all of that. You know, read through it in your head and everything. And then we are gonna have you kind of gently act it out in front of the class, okay? Do any of you have questions about what you're reading? Okay. So between the 2 of you, I want you to figure out who's student 1 and who's student 2. Do we know who's reading what parts? Yes, okay, cool. Take a couple minutes. While you're doing that, I'm just gonna entertain the rest of the class. Okay, so we wanna make sure that we give a round of applause to our 4 fantastic volunteers. Nice job, thank you very much. Okay, so what we saw, both our scenarios were pretty similar, right? Like they started out very, very similar. But my question is, was there a difference between the two scenarios? What did we see? Yeah, okay, so a lot of us, we heard that they were calling their friend a nerd, right? Because they were having to study for the test. So we saw that happening, okay? Yeah, but like the second one, it just felt meaner, right? Like maybe it's kind of hard to describe like when that actually happened, but we all saw that. Okay, yeah. So the difference between the two scenarios is the first one, it seemed like joking, right? And yet the second one, it kind of seemed like bullying. Okay, so my next question for you is, was there a boundary violation in the second scenario? What do you think? Yeah, I'd agree with you. So yeah, they called them a nerd, but in the first scenario, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but I have the script here. In the first scenario, they said, "You're a nerd, just kidding," right? And they kind of smiled when they said that. In the second scenario, they said, "You're such a nerd." And then they said, "Seriously, ditch her and come hang out with us," right? So that was a big difference between the two. And that seems like a boundary violation because they weren't saying just kidding. They were saying seriously in that tone, right? Were there other boundary violations that we heard in the second scenario that we can pick up on? Yeah, so at the very, very end, a big thing that gives us kind of that indication that they weren't just teasing is they said, "Forget sitting with us tomorrow," right? So that really shows us the difference between, hey, we're just messing around and like joking around today, but the fact that they said, you know what, like this is gonna happen tomorrow too, don't even sit with us tomorrow. That's another boundary violation that we can pick up on that really shows the difference between the first and the second scenario. Okay, so I have my lovely Tchart up here. It's possible that maybe you remember a Tchart from, dare I say, math class, right? And the reason that we have this is because we want to be able to compare different things on different sides, right? So we're comparing teasing versus bullying, okay? So we just saw the two skits, right? Scenario 1, scenario 2, and we all agreed that there were some boundary violations happening in that second skit. So what do we think? How do we tell the difference between teasing versus bullying? What do we think? Okay, so I heard language, right? Okay. So what about language? How do we tell? So bullying language, what does that look like? Okay, so they said that they were serious, right? They said, "Oh, I'm serious." Versus when they were saying, when they were teasing, they said, "I'm joking," right? So, yeah. So with the actual words that they said, the difference is they said, "I'm serious," versus teasing, they said, "Oh, I'm joking." Yeah, perfect, okay. Other ways that we can tell the difference between teasing and bullying. Okay, so I heard laughter, right? Okay, what's the difference? Who's laughing during teasing? Who's laughing? Okay, yeah, everyone, right? Everyone's laughing. Okay, and bullying. Maybe only some, right? So with bullying, only some people, they're laughing probably at someone. They're not all laughing together, right? The person who it was happening to, they're probably not laughing, versus in teasing, yeah, everyone's laughing, including the person who was being teased. Definitely. Okay, what else? What else can we pick up on? Okay. Okay, I heard tone. Yeah, so tell me more about that. Yeah, so tone of voice. So the way that someone says something. So maybe with bullying tone, maybe they're louder, right? Yeah, so maybe they seem really loud, or maybe they seem more serious and like their tone is like, "I'm serious," right? Okay. What about tone for teasing? How is it different? It's kind of hard to put it in words. I'm gonna write smiley, where like your tone is like, "Oh, haha." It's like it's jokey, right? Yeah. Okay. What else other than these things? What do we think? Remember we saw the skit. What were we watching for? So a lot of these are things that we heard. What did we see in the skit? What could we look for? Okay. Yeah. So I heard both of them. I think they're really great. We can look for both body language and we can look at someone's face. Okay? Yeah, those are really great. So for bullying, and oftentimes bullying can be maybe easier to see, their face and their body language. They look upset, right? So when someone's upset, it's possible they look down, right? Their head, they start to look down, they hunch their shoulders. Maybe they're actually crying or they look sad in their face. Yeah, okay. Body language, face, when someone's being teased. What do we think? Yeah, so a lot of the words are kind of already up here. Yeah, maybe they're smiling, right? We can see it in their face. They're smiling or they're laughing along. Okay, yeah, I think these are the big ones. There's definitely other ways that we can tell the difference between teasing and bullying, but I think that these are really, really good examples that kind of show not only what do we hear, right, with actual language, words used, tone of voice, but also what can we see? We can see body language. We can see facial expressions. Really, really nice job, guys. And I'm gonna leave this up for a bit so that we can all reference this. Okay, so nice job on the Tchart, right? That's really where we can focus on kind of that difference between teasing and bullying. But, sometimes maybe it's not that obvious. Maybe, we're not really exactly sure if it's teasing versus bullying, especially when it comes to our friends. So I have a question for you, and I'm not actually asking you to raise your hand. Just think about this question. Do any of you have friends who tease each other? Okay, yeah, I see some nodding of heads. I'd agree. I definitely tease my friends. And I remember from our other day, we did that kind of yes and no card activity. One of my questions was, do you ever call your friends names? And all of you guys were like, yeah, I call my friends names all the time. Loser, stupid. Yeah, exactly, right? So a lot of us have friends who tease each other. That's very normal, okay? What about how many of you have seen teasing between friends go maybe a little bit too far? Okay, yeah, I see a couple head nods where you're like, yeah, that happens. I'd agree, right? Our friends know a lot of things about us. They know about our personal life. They know about our family. They know maybe if we failed a test or something. So because they have all this personal information about us, when they're teasing, it's very possible that they're teasing and it's okay. And then suddenly they cross that line and suddenly it feels a lot less okay or a lot less funny. Okay, yeah, so we know that this happens. How about how many of you have seen teasing go too far and maybe start to happen a bit too often, right? It becomes a pattern. Okay, so I still see some head nods, right? So, I unfortunately had an experience with this. So when I'm pretty sure I was in 8th grade. I was at the pool with my friends over the summer and I got a horrible bloody nose, okay? And I'm someone who gets bloody noses a lot, but I was at the pool, so I didn't have my tissues with me when maybe I normally would. And the only thing that was available was my friend had a tampon, okay? So tampon, it's like a little piece of cotton. There's a string hanging down from it, right? It's something that people use when they have their periods, right? So that's all we had. And I have this gushing bloody nose that's getting everywhere. So my friend gives me a tampon and I shove it up my nose, right? Because I want to stop getting blood everywhere. And it looks ridiculous and it's filling my nose and the string is hanging down and it worked, but it was very funny, right? It was very embarrassing, but I was with only a couple friends. Okay, so my friend takes a picture of it, we're all joking around about it. And in that moment, it was totally fine. It was not bullying, they were teasing me because of course they were, because I had a tampon in my nose. But like we hang out with other friends a couple days later who weren't there, and they all know the story, and they've all seen the picture, and they all start talking to me about it and like teasing me about it. And part of me felt like, okay, like you guys weren't there. Why does everyone know this story about me? And I started to feel kind of embarrassed about it because it wasn't my fault, but suddenly it felt like it had gone too far. And then some time goes by and these people aren't dropping it. They just keep bringing it up, and more people have seen the picture or just have the picture. And suddenly it felt like, okay, this isn't just friendly teasing anymore. This isn't just the people who were there when it happened. Now it's this huge group of people who are all still talking about it, and it happened 2 months ago. Like, why can we not just drop it, right? So like it started to feel like a pattern, and it wasn't funny to me anymore at all. So I totally know what this is like. And, when we think about the people that we want to have around us, the people that we think of as our friends, all of us agreed on those words at the beginning, right? We want our friends to be caring. We want our friends to be supportive. We want our friends to be loyal, and we want our friends to be respectful. And in that moment, it didn't really feel like my friends were really super doing that anymore. So, when it comes down to it, the people that we want to have around us should have those same characteristics, right? Those same qualities. We want people around us to care about who we are. And yeah, we poke fun at each other a little bit, but when it starts to become a pattern and it starts to feel like you're being bullied by your own friends, then maybe it's worth having a conversation about what's really going on. Okay, so I know it can feel a little weird to like practice having conversations with our friends when maybe they've crossed that line with us, but what we know is that we want to be able to stay friends with these people. So having this conversation is actually really important, hopefully going to be really helpful for you. So with this next activity, you're going to actually be getting up and going around the room, facing each other and practicing some of this. But before we get there, I want to fully explain all of the instructions before we start getting up. So the script that you're going to be using is this: I feel or I felt blank when you blank. That's a boundary violation for me. It would be better if you blank, okay? So all those blanks in there, obviously you're not actually saying blank. You're going to be filling in that, okay? So, and like, I realize that it can look a little funny using a script like this to like talk to our friends, but I think it's actually going to be really helpful for us just for this so that we can figure out how we can practice together, okay? So when we do this activity, a couple things I want you to keep in mind. I want you to keep in mind that the person that you're practicing with is not the person who did the boundary violation to you, okay? So like we're not getting mad at the person, we're not pretending that it was them. It's literally you are practicing saying this out loud to another person. And when that other person hears you say this, all I want them to reply is, okay, and that's it, okay? So that's the first thing. And with that first thing, because it's not the person that you are actually talking to who did the boundary violation, there's a handful of activity or examples in here that I'm going to be using where, okay, maybe it would feel a little weird if it was like a guy and a girl who are partnered together. Just keep in mind, it's not weird. We don't need to get weird about it. The person that you're saying it to is not the person who did the boundary violation. It's literally just the person that you're practicing with, okay? So for this activity, I'm gonna have you all number off around the room, okay? So first person, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Perfect, okay. Now, I want all the ones to raise your hand, okay? Does everyone know if they're a 1? Perfect, hands down. All the 2s, raise your hand. Okay, I feel like we have more 2s than 1s. Okay, you guys got flip-flopped. Okay, no worries. All right, so we all know if we're a 1 or a 2. Perfect, okay, great. Stay seated just for a few more moments, okay? So I wanna show you an example of how this is gonna work. So if I'm a 1, I'm gonna hear the scenario and then I'm gonna say it out loud to the 2 that's my partner. So I'm gonna say, okay, I felt uncomfortable when you touched my hair. That's a boundary violation for me. It would be better if you ask before doing that next time. And then the 2, who's my partner, they say, okay. Then the 2 goes, same scenario, and then it's their turn, and they say, I felt angry when you touched my hair. That's a boundary violation for me. It would be better if you just don't touch my hair. And then person 1 goes, okay. All right, so that's our setup. And I'm gonna make sure I keep track of like when it's the 1s and when it's the 2s. Okay, do we have questions before we get up? Perfect, okay. So everyone's getting up. I want my 1s to come over here and stand in a perfect line. Okay, and I want my 2s to get up and come over here in a perfect line. And I want you to be facing each other. Okay, so everyone should have a partner. Doesn't matter who you're partnered with, again. Okay, so we have our 1s and we have our 2s. Okay, 1s are gonna be going first. And the scenario that I'm gonna have you do is, your friend makes negative comments about your body when you're changing in front of them. Okay, yes, I know, it's very funny. Reminder, the person that you're talking to, they're not actually the person who did this. It doesn't matter who you're paired with. Okay, your friend makes negative comments about your body when you're changing in front of them. That's our scenario. My 1 people, I want you to use this script and say exactly what you want to say to the number 2s. And go. Okay, perfect. Same thing, 2s, it is now your turn, same scenario, and go. Perfect, okay, so the person that's closest to me, only on the 1 side, I want you to get out of line, go all the way around everyone, all the way to the other end, and then all the 1s are gonna just scooch down. Okay, so that means that all my 1s and 2s should all have a new partner for this next scenario. Does everyone have a new partner? Perfect, okay. Our next scenario is, your friend takes your phone and messages someone pretending to be you. Okay? Your friend takes your phone and messages someone pretending to be you. Okay? So since we had our 1s go first last time, let's change it up. I'm gonna have my 2s go first. So 2s, go ahead and talk to your partner. And 1s, go ahead. Okay, for this next one, still on the 1 side, I want this person closest to me, get out of line, go all the way around, and scooch down. So we all have new partners for this next part, okay? Okay, so everyone returning to their seats. Thank you so much. You guys really did a great job with that activity. So as I said at the beginning, I realize that using this script can feel pretty awkward, okay? I will say, in my regular life, I generally don't talk like this, but there actually is a reason behind why we have a setup script like this. And the big thing has to do with that first sentence. So I feel blank when you blank. Because if you really think about it, when we have conversations with people, or maybe I should say arguments with people, so many of us, what our default thing that we say is, you did this and it made me mad, right? That simple thing of starting with, you did this, it sounds accusatory. It makes the other person feel like you're mad at them and you're blaming them and it's all their fault, which then makes them get really defensive because you're, sticking your finger in their face going, you, and then they're going, what? Me? What did I do? Right? So even just saying it like that can already kind of make it feel like an argument. But when we flip it and we instead say, gosh, I felt upset or I felt angry when you did this, it takes it off that other person and it puts it on you where you say, this bothered me, right? So I wasn't okay with this. I felt hurt. I felt embarrassed when this happened. It'd be better if you do this instead. So that key difference of just changing those words around, that honestly, it can make it a lot more likely that you have a conversation instead of an argument. And when you change those words around, the other thing that maybe, hopefully you've picked up on is the difference in tone. And tone is one of those things that we talk a lot about when it comes to talking about boundary violations. We talked about it in teasing versus bullying, right? Tone's a big thing. where it's you did this versus I felt hurt. If you can hear it, the way that you say it out loud, it sounds different. It sounds softer when you say I felt angry. Even if you say I felt angry, even if you say it loud like that, that still is a very different tone from the you did this, right? So tone and the order of the words, the word choice that you use can really make a big difference, because when it comes down to it, we have a script like this and we're practicing this stuff because we want you to be able to have these conversations with your friends and hopefully stay friends. So many of you guys have told us that when someone does something that makes you mad, you fight about it and like you get physical and then you're not friends anymore. Our hope is that by having done this practice, by thinking about these things like tone, like, just how you start the sentence, maybe, hopefully it means that you can stay friends with people and you can have these conversations back and forth about boundaries and boundary violations and not always have to turn into a fight where, you and your friends aren't friends anymore. We want you to be able to have these conversations and maintain those relationships.